Yes, repurposing your content. This is huge. This is something that I can do more, and in the future, I will do more to do this because it's so valuable. It saves you a lot of time, and if you can hire a VA, a virtual assistant, to do it for you, there's people who are pro at it. You'll see that the effects of it are phenomenal, and it's something I haven't tried myself. I've only seen a lot of my close friends who are online and do make a lot of content. I've seen them put out more content than I have off of one simple piece of content that they did. So what does repurposing content mean? So we all have our strength. So if you guys can remember the three forms of content: written, voice, video. You have these three forms of content. Now, what do you mean what do I mean when I say repurposing it? Meaning whatever that main thing of content is that you did. Let's start with something everyone can do, very simple, a podcast. Let's say you have a podcast. How do you repurpose a podcast? It's very simple. So you have this, let's say you have a 2-minute podcast. Basically, to repurpose it means you take that 2-minute podcast and you turn it into as many forms of small pieces of content, and you disperse it among different social platforms, if that makes sense to you. So let's say I sit here and I talk about, I like coconuts. Coconuts are very nice. I haven't had a coconut in about 4 days, and that makes me really sad. And literally that was my podcast. It was 2 minutes like that. So how do I repurpose that? Well, you have the podcast, that's for sure. You have the podcast. Now, if I was filming that part as a video, what I would do is that video now can go on YouTube. And then, okay, how do I keep going more? Well, everything that I said in that podcast, in that YouTube video, can be transcribed. Take everything you just said, have it written down, and everything that you said, you link it in the description of YouTube. Because by doing that, you'll be ranked. Because podcasts, you can't really find them. They're a sub part of a bigger brand, most likely. Or you found them because people record their podcasts, such as Joe Rogan records his podcast and puts clips online of it. So basically, I could have had that entire podcast, that 2-minute podcast on coconuts, put it on YouTube. So now we have the podcast and we have YouTube. And let's say we wrote it down in the description, everything that I said, everything that was said in the podcast, I written the description of YouTube, which is great because now it's ranked and people can find it, which is what you want. So now that we have that, that's like 3 forms of content from a 2-minute clip. So let's say everything that I just said in the podcast we take one little clip of it, 3 sentences of it, and we take a picture of a coconut, we post that picture of a coconut on Instagram, and we take 2 sentences from the podcast we just recorded, and you put that in the description of Instagram with a bunch of hashtags. Coconuts, why coconuts, I love coconuts, missing coconuts, all these in the hashtag. So now you've created multiple forms. We've got the podcast, which could have just been a podcast, but now we've put it on YouTube, and now we just put it on Instagram, which is great. So how do we take it even further? Let's say we take that entire transcript, which was the podcast, and we turn that into a post. We turn that into a blog post. Now we have a blog post off of that 2-minute podcast. We have a blog post from it. So then you're like, wow, man, you can just keep on going with this stuff. Absolutely. So now I'm sure now you've started thinking in your mind what else you could have made with it. Like, oh, I could have made a Pinterest and showed how I like to have my coconuts. Or you could have easily, I'm literally thinking of this right now. Another thing that you could have done is you could have taken little clips, little sentences that you said in the podcast and just wrote it in Twitter. You can get 8, 9 Twitter posts from it. That it can be spaced out every 6 hours or each day, however you want to do it. So it's just like, okay. So that's how you repurpose content. So by doing, and that's with a podcast, which is a little bit more difficult to do because it takes having someone edit the audio, clip the audio. So that's one piece. But imagine if you were writing, you could do the same exact thing. If you would have wrote any of these pieces of content, you can understand how this works. And repurposing content is so important because it allows you, if you don't have time to make a lot of videos, you don't have time to make a lot of podcasts, by repurposing your content, now you can get that Twitter post, you can get that Instagram post, or that one Instagram post this is the one famous thing I tell a lot of people that I work with, is that you have that Instagram post, everything you wrote in the description, save it. Save the entire description. Turn it into a little blog post. Turn it into a little booklet. After you get 50 posts on Instagram, turn it into a little 50 post booklet. My thoughts, my journal. Sell it for $1. You know, and this is just repurposing content, and I kind of hinted how you can monetize it, but this is literally something you can do, or don't sell it at all. Just put it into a post book. Boom. My Instagram post from the year. Someone will get it. Someone will find it very interesting. And this is what you want to do. This is how you repurpose your content. Because by repurposing your content, you take one big content that you do one time, you outsource it to someone else, or you can do it yourself. That can take time. And once you got them everywhere, and you have them posted everywhere. And you rethink like, okay, it stops you from having to talk about coconuts. Now, after you've talked about coconuts for 2 minutes, you got to sit there on Instagram like, what am I going to post today? No, you've done it. You've repurposed your content. And literally, it is that simple. Repurposing your content is something that will save you time. It makes you think, and you get creative with it. As you've been listening to this, I'm sure you've thought about your favorite way of making content, or someone who you like to watch, and you're like, wait, I could repurpose it like that. I could repurpose it like that. I could do a step 2 guide of how to open coconuts. Your brain starts to think of like, wait a minute, from 2 minutes of talking, I can get everything that I need to put it out in different platforms everywhere. And literally, it's that simple. Repurposing content, saving you time, save you a hassle, and you only do one thing, and then that one thing is broken down into many parts. So I hope this helped you. Repurposing your content, something that I wish I started to do before. Haven't done yet, but will start to do in the future. I just create so much content that I haven't had the time to repurpose it myself. But repurposing your content, guys, try it with one piece of thing. The challenge I give to you, whatever your method is for creating content, try to repurpose it. And one of the better parts of repurposing your content is not only does it have you put you on other social media sites and platforms that people can find you, the best part of it is that's another outlet that someone can find you. Someone who didn't listen to your podcast, now scrolling on YouTube, now is suggested by you. And now they're like, whoa, who is this person? Now they can go everywhere. They can explore your brand, and now you've brought in more attention. The person scrolling on Instagram, all of a sudden they see a picture of a coconut because they love coconuts as well. I'll stop for a coconut. So now what you've done is you've repurposed that content, and now you've made yourself, instead of getting one at bat, whenever you put out a piece of content, it's an at bat. You swing. You get a chance at being seen by someone. You have a chance of going viral. You have a chance of bringing in the ideal people that you want. But by repurposing content, it turns that one at bat, that one swing you have, it turns it into about 10, 15, 20, 30 swings at one time. So instead of a bat swinging, boom, hitting one ball, you have multiple like this. You have a better chance to get that ideal people, ideal clients even that you guys want to work with. And all that happens by repurposing your content. It gives you more at bats, but only one swing still, because that content, that swing is being repurposed. So if I give you one piece of advice for this video, obviously, it is to repurpose your content.